Welcome to Make Magic Happen with Kat O'Sullivan. Over the next hour, you'll hear from Kat and her guests who will help you create the life you really want, even if it feels impossible. Now, here's Kat.
Good morning, Kat here. Whether you're with me live or listening to a replay, welcome. I am thrilled to have you part of my Make Magic Happen community. I hope today's episode will be inspiring, challenge you to ponder how you can bring your vision to life, a vision that creates new possibilities for you and others on your path. Oh, and I know you're going to love this week's guest, Kylin O'Brien. Now, she's going to be coming live from the heart of New York City. She's going to share how tapping into your spirit and bringing all of who you are will make your journey even more meaningful. But first, on last week's episode, we challenged assumptions about what it means to retire these days, including how some people have decided to unretire. Now, of course, I love that idea. I shared that people have given me a big fat F when it comes to retirement. And the consequence, I've been able to live a new life filled with passion and purpose with no regrets. Now, I shared some shocking statistics and posed some poignant questions, starting with, what if you live to be 100? Seriously, it's possible. Given that, what would a meaningful retirement look like for you, whether you retire or not? Knowing the answer to that can help you avoid getting to the end of your life regretting that you didn't live the life you really wanted. My guest, Pauline Fields, shared some great tips for making the transition from what you're doing now to what you want the rest of your life to look like. If you missed any of that, I hope you'll listen to the replay. Now, I hope by the end of our conversation, you were excited about the possibilities and feel even more equipped to create the life you really want now and throughout the rest of your life. Last week's episode is the perfect segue to today's show, starting with, wait for it, do you believe it's possible to be a grounded visionary? You might be thinking, what the bleep does that mean? Keep in mind, a vision lives in your imagination. It's all about imagining a future full of new possibilities that haven't happened yet. And of course, something other people can't see either. For me, it's all about having a powerful and empowering vision of what you really want your life to look like, and a clear path to navigate your way to bring it to life. Having both will help you make the shift from doubt to do. And yes, that's the title of my new book. In it, I share how I've done the seemingly impossible over and over again. And in each case, I had an inspired vision of how I could help challenge the status quo and all the assumptions that go with it to create new possibilities. Now, here are a few highlights. I designed an innovative project-based learning model for kids who weren't succeeding in a traditional classroom. I brought to life a unique volunteer program and later a workforce prep program that transformed how people see at-risk or troubled youth and gave those youth an opportunity to experience their value as they realized they could make a difference in another person's life and find their place in the world of work. Then there's a more personal, poignant example when I found myself with the opportunity to adopt Vanessa, who was abandoned by her birth family after being diagnosed with a life-threatening brain tumor. Each of these experiences and more taught me so many lessons along the way. If you want to know more, just click on the banner at the top of the page. It's my hope that From Doubt to Do will help you when you find yourself doubting what's possible and need some inspiration, strategies, and tools to navigate your path to possibility. And if you missed any of my previous episodes, I invite you to listen to the replays. My guests and I have shared the importance of having a clear vision of what you really want. But vision isn't enough. Without a clear path, it can lead to doubt with a capital D. And I am not immune. When I was envisioning how moving to Mexico could allow me to live the life I really wanted, there was a raging battle between me and my negative self-talk. It sounded like, Mexico? Are you crazy? Making a shift like that in the middle of a pandemic, that'll never happen. And what makes you think you can create that big of a shift at this stage in your life? And of course, there's the what will others think, especially if you fail. Can you relate? What negative self-talk keeps you from pursuing what you really want? What thoughts immediately come to mind? Getting them out of your head and onto a piece of paper will help you see them for what they are, thoughts. Now ask yourself, what if they're not true? What else could be possible? Capture those thoughts as well. I decided to ignore all that negative self-talk and focus on making magic happen in my life. I knew it was going to take a lot of my own medicine. Yeah, heaping tablespoons of my own medicine. I also knew I'd need to send myself to my yet-to-be-released getovermyself.com. I took a deep breath. I reflected on what made all those seemingly impossible visions possible. I knew it was time to reconnect with my 4 C's. They have helped me navigate my path to new possibilities that have changed my life and the lives of others on my path. And they can do the same for you, if you let them. Curious what they are? They are courage, clarity, commitment, and capacity, in that order. Each one leads to the other, and then it's full circle back to courage. Here's a closer look. Courage is the beginning of a transformational journey. It all starts with the courage to take a step back, own that something is tugging at your heart, and give yourself permission to explore what else might be possible in your life. And if you're thinking about what you want is a foreign concept, that's okay. You're not alone. Try this. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I know it's a provocative question, but seriously, try taking away all the stakes and putting your fears aside long enough to own what you really want. See if that helps. Oh, and here's a fun question that might also help. What would create a short shower day for you? I first heard that when I asked one of my nephews how his new job was going. His response, it's creating lots of short shower days. He went on to share that he's so excited to get back to work that he takes a short shower. I guess that's a good barometer. So think about it. What would create short shower days for you? Now, here's a quote by Alan Cohen that challenged me to get over myself and pursue my latest vision. It takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure, to embrace the new, but there is no real security in what's no longer meaningful. There's more security in the adventurous and exciting. For in movement, there's life, and in change, there's power. Wait, so why is this so difficult? Yes, I've done lots of seemingly impossible things before, but why does self-doubt still creep in the next time I have another visionary idea? Why do I second guess myself? Never-ending expectations can hold me captive, my own and those of others who think they know better. And what's with all the what ifs, especially the what if it doesn't work out? Then there's the fear of the unknown and the known. It can be immobilizing. Can you relate? When that doubt creeps in, it's time to make a shift to more empowering what ifs, as in, what if the most significant obstacle between you and what you really want is imaginary, a product of your mindset, total fiction? And what if now is a perfect time to give yourself permission to imagine what else is possible in your life? What if what you want would be life-changing for you and others? And wait for it, this is the big one. What if impossible is just a story you're telling yourself? Now, that last one really hits home. Have you ever thought something was impossible, only to find out it's not? Time to remind yourself of that. Once you give yourself permission to explore what you really want, it's time to get clarity, the second C. Now, the importance of clarity can't be overstated. One caution, we're never as clear as we think we are. So spend some time on this. Here's a process that might be helpful. Create a vivid, detailed description of what you really want. No assumptions. Leave nothing to your imagination. Also, how do you want to feel while you're pursuing it? Share what you've developed with a trusted friend and ask for specific feedback. Is it clear? Not whether they agree or believe it's possible. What is missing? What questions does it raise? What needs more explanation? What else would make it even clearer? Now, based on their feedback, fill in the gaps and share again until you and the other person gets it. And please, do not let any shoulds get in your way. What you think you should be or do, or others think, or even what society and the dreaded social media think. For me, a biggie was, you should do it because you're so good at it. Oh, and for an added bit of guilt, there's the, of course, you should keep doing it because it's so important and who else will do it? Now I say, enough of that. What are the shoulds in your life that don't resonate with what you really want? Time to let them go. It's also important to get clarity around why it's so important to you. Here are some thoughts to ponder that could help you with that. How will pursuing what you're envisioning help you live out your core values? Do more of what you love. Make the shift from what you're doing now to pursuing what you really want. Also, when you ponder pursuing your vision, pay close attention to how you feel. Does just the thought of it make you feel truly alive? Will it help you live your legacy on purpose, in alignment with what's most important? Having a strong why will help you make a genuine commitment, the third C. Another caution. In my experience, there are 3 levels of commitment. There's the dreaded lip service, saying yes when you really mean no, which is only confusing and undermines what's possible. The next level, compliance. You're there when you hear, I have to. And that only leads to resentment and anger. What we're going after is a bold, unwavering commitment, because it's the only thing that's going to help you stay the course when you face the inevitable challenges. and it'll help you deal with all that negative self-talk. Once you have clarity and genuine commitment, it's all about taking stock of your current capacity, the fourth C. I'm a big believer in a strengths-based approach. Think about what you're really good at. What comes naturally for you? What do others say you're good at? How can you leverage those strengths to help you as you set about building new capacity? Create a plan on how you will build the new capacity you'll need, including knowledge, skills, tools, resources you'll need along the way. Also, what support you'll need. Don't overwhelm yourself. Start with one thing and then the next, and so on. Yes, it all starts with courage. Without the courage to explore what else is possible, nothing else matters. Without clarity around what it looks like and why it's so important, it's unlikely to make a genuine commitment and stay the course. Having the courage, clarity, and genuine commitment won't matter if you don't have the capacity to make it happen. Remember, all the clarity, commitment, and capacity in the world is nothing without the courage to embrace each step of the journey. If given the chance, it'll be transformational. Now, reality check. Things rarely play out as planned, so you can also use the 4Cs as a diagnostic tool when things go sideways. Identify which of the 4Cs needs to be revisited and adjusted to overcome those challenges and move forward. Oh, and I've recently added a fifth C, choice. After all, it's at the center of each of the 4Cs because we're always at choice. So I encourage you, choose wisely and be intentional about what you choose. Check in with yourself regularly. Is what you're choosing in alignment with your vision? Will it help you navigate your path? Remember, it's never too late to embrace all of who we are, unapologetically. Whatever our past has been, regardless of our current circumstances, and in the face of our fears and worries, we can use the now 5 Cs to make the shift from doubt to do and bring our vision to life. It's what will make us a grounded visionary. Now, so far, I've shared some good strategies for making the shift from doubt to do and tools to help you navigate your path to possibility. I've addressed some of the mindset issues that can get in the way of that happening. After the break, you'll have the opportunity to get to know my special guest, Kylin O'Brien. She's a mentor, coach, spiritual guide for successful people looking to create more easeful, fulfilling lives without sacrificing their beautiful ambitions. You're going to love her energy. She'll be sharing how tapping into all of who you are will make even more magic happen along the way. So stay tuned. You won't want to miss a moment of this conversation. Now, time for a quick break.
Welcome back to Make Magic Happen with Kat O'Sullivan.
And we're back. If you're just joining us, welcome. In our first segment, I shared how my 5 Cs are a way to help you make the shift from doubt to do and navigate your path to possibility, which also happens to be the title of my new book. Coincidence? I think not. If you want the rest of the stories and even more strategies, click on the banner at the top. And if you missed any of that, know you can always get the rest of the story by listening to the replay. So I want to welcome Kylin. So great to have you with us.
Hi, Kat. So great to be here. I'm really delighted to have this conversation with you and to explore this topic with you. I find you wise and your energy is just lovely, just lovely. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So no doubt creating a significant shift in our life, it can be challenging. And of course, when shift happens, I'm all about making magic happen. And I know you are too. I've shared how my 4 C's, now 5, can help create a magical disruption as we shift from doubt to do and navigate our pathway to possibility, and how choice is key to each step along the way. So Kylin, just to set the stage, I would love for you to share your journey from where you were to where you are now, what you're up to.
Kat, you had warned me that you were gonna mention that, and I was thinking about my journey, my life path, and it is so epic. And there have been so many things. I'm like, do I hit the highlight or whatever? And I will say simply this, that as with all of our life narratives, as with all of our journeys, it has been unfolding, and there have been surprises around corners, and there have been roads that I didn't expect to take. And that has shown itself, really revealed itself to me to be integral to the human experience. Everyone has that. There's no avoiding that. And I really found over the years, the more I have embraced that, the more beautifully the universe, for lack of a better term, for the things that are working around us and with us that we don't know what they are, the more I embrace that, the more things have come out the way I want. And I find that almost paradoxical. I find that like the more I let go of trying to control it, and as my life has been a series of my plans being met with unexpected events, we're talking about really like being brought up in New Jersey, moving unexpectedly down to Florida. I moved every 2 years.
Oh man.
For something like 20 years, really having to like rediscover like every single time, who did I want to be? This opportunity to recreate myself, deciding that like where it really was out for me in my youth was studying philosophy, realizing that like Eastern philosophy was actually what I was interested in, going to Tibet, meeting the Dalai Lama, coming back, going through art school, being out of school, going to start my career, getting pregnant unexpectedly, embracing that opportunity, raising this child, finding that I was raising a child that what I was going to do was study feng shui so I could be the best homemaker possible, right? Running my art career in the background, moving spontaneously to New York City, all of these things, and just like rolling with it to the point where now like I am living my dreams, and they have unfolded as Kat in ways that I couldn't have designed if I tried. And they are more beautiful. My life is more beautiful than if I had designed it. And falling into coaching now, I mean, that I was in the most prestigious art shows I've ever been in. I was doing the most beautiful artwork I've ever done. Why am I here coaching now? And it was basically just like I had to do it. It was inspired action. And more than anything, that inspirational energy. And I think you really have that. And you really talk about that from doubt to do. That's been what's fueled my whole journey. And I gave you just the littlest taste of it because I don't want to go into all the details.
I don't know if I'm exhausted or just so mesmerized with everything that you've done. And I just love your energy and the fact that you have been willing to just let go and go with the flow and discover what's possible. And I know that somewhere I saw you say that your life, our life, is the result of our energy, not our circumstances. And what you just described is such a reflection of that. I'd love for us to explore how letting go and adding that, tapping into our spirit, can help us as we pursue our heart's desire with less stress and more fulfillment, I might add. So let's play with this and see what happens, like if we put it in the context of those 4 C's. So let's start with courage, because definitely when we're stepping out of our comfort zone, sometimes way out of our comfort zone, it can be scary. And I've shared that there is no courage without fear. So how can embracing that spiritual aspect of our journey shift our perspective?
I love this. I just love this question and this entire topic, because when we talk about our spiritual journey, or what even is spirit, and I already mentioned inspiration and the energy of inspiration. It is energy, but we do have a physiological response to that energy. And the physiology of being nervous or excited is actually the same in the human body. Yeah. And we can discover these things through like studying science, or there's really ways to ground that very sort of spiritual energy. But what's interesting is I love the way Arthur C. Clarke talked about magic as it's just technology that we don't yet understand. And I feel like when I'm talking about the universe, or when I'm talking about that spiritual component, it may just be it's something that we don't understand yet. It has a mystery to it. And at a certain point, I just say to that, so what? Okay, so what? So it's non-rational and your intellect can't grab it, but can you feel it in your body? Can you feel that full body goosebumps, that enthusiasm that you might be interpreting as nervousness, and really read it as inspiration when it is in fact inspiration? And I love that the word spirit is in inspiration. And when we have hold of or it has hold of us, a genuine inspiration, having the courage to say yes to that, even if it's non-rational. And non-rational does not mean irrational, by the way. I'm going to get semantic.
Oh, wait,
I'm going to get the semantics on that.
Wait, say that again.
Yeah. This one, actually, I credit my father with this, who is a very intellectual man. And I was sharing with him some of what I teach. And he said, Kylin, just because something's non-rational doesn't mean it's irrational. And just really gave the language to that reality. Yeah. Just because something is non-rational doesn't mean it's irrational. And in fact, if you look at the human experience, it is irrational to need everything to be understood by your intellect, because, hey, it's not gonna. Everybody understands that. The moment we scientifically or otherwise answer a question, find some new discovery, it just opens up a whole bunch of new questions. So if we get more embodied, this is part of that grounding that we're talking about today, and actually feel in our bodies a moment of inspiration. We might feel nervous. We could choose to feel excited. But if we embrace that, even if we don't understand why, then we take inspired action, and then we're acting from a place of overflow rather than obligation. And things get really juicy as
they do.
And your life unfolds.
I'm all about making magic happen. Yeah. And I know for me, when that inspiration hits, it does feel magical. And like you say, might not be able to explain it. People look at me like, are you crazy? And I'm like, no, it is a very real phenomena. Like you said, you can't necessarily explain it, but I know when, like I said, when that inspiration hits, it is magical in some way.
And it takes courage to answer that call. It does take courage, because you feel nervous. It takes courage to be like, actually, I think maybe I'm excited. I'm going to go for this.
Yeah, I'm glad that you shared that, because that is so true. We tend to interpret it as fear, nerves, as opposed to, I'm just so excited. So I love that you made that distinction. And let's take a look at the whole issue of clarity. Even though it might not be rational, clarity is really important. Once we have that vision, that inspiration, in order to move forward, we need to get more clarity. And in my first episode, Paul Daniels shared that when we're looking for new possibilities, they're often found out there in the periphery. So I'm curious, from your perspective, how can you help us tap into that periphery in a spiritual way?
Oh, God, I love this. These are beautiful prompts. And also just such a, it really, Kat, just such a gorgeous insight into your process and how you think and how your gorgeous brain works. So with regard to clarity, for me, I think that creating a spaciousness and clearings is crucial in order to be able to see, but also in order to make room for, and as a feng shui teacher, like this is true physically and psychologically and emotionally and spiritually. where we really need to make space for a moment and get into that, okay, maybe I don't understand this, or I don't know where this is going to lead, but I'm lit up about it. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I feel the call of something. And you make some space and you go ahead and you have that moment where you get a little bit more, okay, I don't get this, but so what? I'm excited. And inside of that space, not only can we see things we couldn't necessarily see before. It's literally, if you're clearing out clutter, you like find stuff in your closet that you're like, oh my God, I remember these shoes or whatever. But also it creates space for things to come to you, which absolutely happens. Like things will fall into your lap if you let them. But there has to be room for things to come in for you. So I think creating clearings, like getting clearer. And one of the best ways to do that, and it's interesting because it's considered such a spiritual practice, but more and more psychologists and people have been studying what it does to your brainwave states. Meditation, a huge proponent of meditation. I meditate almost daily. I'm not a perfectionist, so it doesn't happen every single day, but I do it because I want to do it because it's so incredibly good for me. And people are like, oh, I can't sit there and not think. No, you can't. That's not what it is. There are loads of guided meditations, which is a great place to start. But when we just sit for a moment and quiet, make some space inside of the heart, mind, and body, you would be amazed at the solutions, the answers, the things that were in blind spots that you weren't seeing that just arise. It's like when you still the water and all of that stuff that was floating around sinks down and you can see through the water clearly. Your being, your energy is like that as well. Getting clarity there is beautiful, crucial, and effective.
Yeah, for me, making that shift from courage to clarity as far as clearing out, for me, it's all about when I'm at that place where it's a hell yes. I get that vision, that inspiration, that magic, and I say hell yes, it clears out all the negativity. It focuses on the ability to get more clarity. And I love meditation. I also do journaling after my meditation to try to capture some of those things.
So powerful, Kat. And also too, I just want to jump in because when you talked about clearing out those voices of doubt, of negativity, of concern about what others are going to think, or those old voices of meaning people that maybe teachers or family that were just looking out for us, but keeping us small and keeping us safe. And it doesn't necessarily serve when you're answering the call of an inspiration. So clearing those out as well. And journaling is so powerful. Amazing tool. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And I shared about how getting an authentic commitment is all about aligning your actions with your priorities, your why, to create that life that you really want, especially when things don't go as planned. Because as you said, there's so many twists and turns I know in my own life. I think it's going to go this way. And I step out and I step out, and then things tend to evolve. And our ability to be clear about why what we want is so important is what can keep us on track. So how does our energy factor into that?
Oh gosh, the energy of commitment is incredibly powerful. And I find when you create a commitment and that commitment is actually born of love, either love for a thing, love for yourself, love for an ambition or a goal, it's really okay to want things. It's really okay to want things. It's beautiful. It's a desire calling you forward into the next unfolding of your life. It's beautiful. We tend to like shut those down. When you want something and you allow yourself to get committed to having it or having it come to you or finding it or it finding you, or usually you find each other, actually your dreams and you meet each other halfway. It's like lovers running toward each other on the beach, it's really like that. And when you get into the commitment, then as you're saying, you can navigate all the twists and turns. I like to think of a commitment as like an egg you're holding in your hand, and inside of a commitment, it will hatch. That is known. But you can't hold it too tightly or you have a meal, but that's it. But if you hold that egg in your open palm and you trust and you're committed to it, no matter how long it takes for you to carry that around, it will hatch.
Yeah. definitely. And once we've got that clarity and commitment, obviously it's all about building the capacity to make it happen. The more practical side of it, like how are we going to walk that out? What are we going to need to make that happen? And I'm just wondering, I think it's obvious from what you've shared, but it's not just about doing it, it's how we're being while we're doing it, while we're creating that new capacity. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. This is where it's at. The being of there's that everyone's always, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And we hear it so many times, but it's not the destination, it's the journey, in the sense that, and this is very real, how you are being in order to create something or achieve a goal or get there is really how it's going to be when you get there. Because you're taking you the whole way. You're taking your habits, you're taking your mindset, you're taking your energy, how you interpret what's going on for you. So your capacity is really, I think of it in terms of your nervous system. So training your nervous system to be able to respond to things differently, to be able to be, as I like to think about, because I work with high performers. So we work a lot on people having relaxed vigilance, being luminously competent, understanding that consistency can look like 2 days a week. It doesn't have to look like every day. It can look like once a month. But like developing your nervous system, training your nervous system. And there's so many beautiful tools for that. Hypnotherapy, meditation, affirmation, journaling, exercise, so many things that help your nervous system regulate and be able to increase its capacity for you to have more and more courage to answer bigger and bigger callings in your life, if that's what you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we come back from the break, I'd love to factor in that fifth C, choice. So for those who are listening live, this next segment is your chance to call in and join this amazing conversation with Kylin. We look forward to hearing your questions, like what insights have you gained? And of course, we'd also love to know how you plan to use those insights as you ponder what's next in your life. So let's connect after a brief break.
Welcome back to Make Magic Happen with Kat O'Sullivan. Have a question for Kat or her guests? Join us on the show at 888-346-9141. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, in our previous segments, we learned how the 4 C's can make your vision a reality, help you navigate your path to new possibilities. And Kylin, she shared how embracing all of who you are along that journey can make it even more meaningful and much more. So if you missed any of that, know that you can always get the rest of the story by listening to the replay. Now, it's your turn. I'm hoping you'll join us in the conversation. So as we're waiting for those calls, we didn't revisit choice and the importance of choice along the path with those 4 C's. So, Kylin, I would love for you to share how choice factors in for you.
With pleasure. This is actually one of my favorite topics because I feel like a lot of the kind of human condition in our contemporary culture comes out of people feeling a real, and living inside the energetic of obligation rather than opportunity. Also, rather than overflow. We're like giving, but we're giving from an almost empty cup. And when I observe nature, I find nature is more about overflow. You have an apple tree and it drops 1 apple, but it's made 100 apples. And inside each apple are seeds with other trees with hundreds of apples. It's like a champagne fountain, energetic. So I looked at choice and how can people be more present to choice in their lives and actually ground into the reality that you do have a choice. It's much more real that you have a choice when you really look, when you peel away the layers of obligation and how much of a better person it makes you to sacrifice, which, by the way, happy people are a delight. Happy people are overflowing. A world full of fulfilled and happy people is like a dream, you guys. Like, come on, get happy, nourish yourself, and see what overflow comes from there. And that is really about embracing that. Like, you get to choose. Doing the dishes is an opportunity to have clean dishes, not something you have to do.
Okay, now wait.
Seriously.
Yeah, I love that. And maybe we'll get some insight about that from our caller, Neil, in New York.
Hi. Am I
Hello.
live?
Hi.
Yeah, you're live, Neil.
Excellent.
You're live and alive.
Hi. I am indeed. And hi, Kat. Hi, Kylin. It's great to be with you. One of the things that came up for me listening to you, Kylin, was and I've heard this, of course, most of us have, I think, is that kind of nervousness or fear and excitement are basically the same thing in our bodies, but there's something often in my experience that it's really hard to actually experiencing that feeling, that intense feeling as fear, to shifting it intentionally. I want to shift it to being excited and feeling positive, but there's something hard about that. And I'm curious to hear you talk about what kind of practices you can put in place to help that shift happen from fear to excitement.
Yeah, Kylin, go for it. I know this is your thing. It's mine too, but I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
Okay, great. But I want to hear yours too, Kat, which is, we realize we've got a little mutual adoration society going on here, which is beautiful. I would definitely say that one of the things that is most effective when it comes to really learning to transform what you're just feeling nervous and getting shut down and closing down to that is to start. And again, this is about capacity, right? And developing, like recalibrating and developing your nervous system to be able to handle taking things that feel more and more risky to you, inside of understanding that, like, no, a bear isn't chasing you. You're actually going to be okay. And you can start small with that and then really get into proving ground, where you start to see that there are rewards that come from answering the call of something you want to do that maybe you wouldn't do just because it makes you feel nervous. And when you, I wouldn't say push through, but when you transcend or transform that nervous feeling and you embrace courage, right? Because as Kat says, as everybody says, you can't have it without fear. You start to really develop new neural pathways, new ways of relating to yourself as someone who is courageous. And then you can do that in bigger and bigger ways. That Kat, do you want to jump in here?
Yes, this is a yes and it's consistent. So, when we're in that fear mode, we're in our survival brain. And what I've found is making the shift from that to more of our thinking brain. It's about the two magic questions I've posed in previous segments, which are like, when you're having that fear, that anxiety, whatever that thought is, if you just ask yourself the question, what if that's not true? And the second question, what else is possible? And it does get you out of that negative, fearful survival brain into your thinking brain. And that, I think, can lead to the shift into more excitement. So, Neil, how does that sit with you? You feel like there's something that you could do differently going forward?
Yeah, no, I love both those answers. I guess in my experience, sometimes it feels like my brain is, and just asking it, that's not true, what else is possible. It's almost like that kind of engagement with the thinking process is not possible in the moment. It makes sense.
So
it makes sense. And I think
Neil, there's one other thing that I think can help, and that is when you ask yourself those questions, is to get those thoughts out of your head and onto a piece of paper. Whether you want to call it journaling or you're just taking something out of your head and putting it on a piece of paper, somehow seeing it in writing can make those two questions a little bit easier to deal with.
I would add something as well. Oh, go ahead, Neil.
No, I'm just acknowledging it. Yeah, like a journaling.
I just would add as well that you can feel free to have a little conversation with yourself. Like a good cat, like people are like, are you crazy? It's, yeah. But it really helps to take your identity and let it be distinct. Let your consciousness, let your being be something that isn't just what you're thinking. And then go ahead and talk back to your thoughts. Allow your thoughts to evolve through the process of that internal conversation. And for some people, that's much easier to have on paper. And for some people, like every time I try to journal, I just end up drawing because I'm an artist. but I know the energy of what I'm thinking and what I'm working out is kinesthetically going through my hand on paper. Suffice it to say, you have work these things out and really get that, like, you have perspective that is maybe beyond what the voices, what the normal patterns of thinking are habitually just saying to you. So really getting in there and having a conversation with those habitual voices, those old ideas, and transforming them, because we get to have new ideas for the rest of our lives, maybe into forever.
I love that, having that conversation. And I think I shared that when we were thinking of moving to Mexico in the middle of the pandemic, and of course, everyone was like, you're crazy. And then my own self, I started the negative self-talk, screaming. And I did have fun going back and forth. It was like a dance between what that first thought was and then what else it could be and whatnot. And it can be a form of improv if you look at it that way. And I look for any opportunities to do the yes and, which is fundamental to improv. So yes, this is true or could be true, and this could also be true. So doing that back and forth and playing with it can really be helpful, take away some of that negative energy.
I encourage my clients to bring the lightness of curiosity to everything, like everything. And it's amazing how transformative it is when you just have a little more fun with it, including those internal conversations.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but way back and behind me, I actually have Curious George, the doll, Curious George, because it's always there and reminds me that whatever's going on, what else is possible? Let's get curious. Let's wonder. Let's get into a state of wonder and be curious about what else is possible. And I love that, just taking a more lighthearted approach. Well, Neil, I really appreciate you being brave enough to call in, and I wonder, should I share? But I'm going to share. Guess what? Neil is actually Kylin's wife. Husband. Oops. Oh my God.
I can be Kylin's wife. It's Pride Month.
That too. Could be that too.
Yeah,
well,
happy
listen,
Pride, everybody.
Yeah. I just want to say this has been great, but it is time to wrap it up. So again, thanks for joining me on this journey. Thank you, Neil, for joining us. And remember, if you want to continue the conversation, there's a couple of options. You can email me at kat@makemagichappennow.com, or you can visit my website at katosullivan.com. And Kylin, wow, it's been special having you here with us. And I love all the insights that you've shared. Kylin, how can people reach you?
Oh, people can reach me any number of ways. I have a website. It's my name, Kylin Light, KYLINLIGHT.com. I'm on Instagram at Kylin Light. You can, if you wanted to know about my art career, you can just Google me, Kylin O'Brien. There's a bunch of stuff in there. It's easy to find me, not a problem. And I also just want to say quickly to anyone who wants to get their spouses to take their advice, just go on Kat's show and have them call in and ask you a question. Like,
I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, I hope to see you next week. Same time, same place, as always, onward and upward.